My name is Emily Naus. I'm 18 years old, and today is March 7th. I'm speaking with Alice Naus, who is my grandmother, and we are recording in Michigan City, Indiana. And so for my class, we've talked about like communicating just interpersonally, which means just like person to person or in a small group. And just with the way technology has changed, I've always grown up with phones and internet almost at my fingertips every day. So how have you seen how people talk? How have you seen that change since you were younger, growing
Since
up?
I was younger?
Yeah.
Well, when I was younger, we didn't have what you have right
Yeah.
now. Our telephones were on the wall, and we had party lines. I'm trying to think what else. It's completely different. I mean, we got our milk and our bread was drawn by horse, and our ice for the ice boxes was that way.
Yeah.
And we walked everywhere we went. We didn't really have a lot of transportation, except for maybe a bus or a streetcar.
Mhm.
And people communicated,
Mhm.
and they talked.
Yeah.
They don't talk anymore.
Mhm.
They're too busy on their phones, and they don't really communicate.
Mhm.
They don't know what the world's all about unless they sit down and start talking to each other again. It's completely different. And I'm glad that I grew up in my generation because we did things together and we talked. Now nobody talks. They're just too busy on their cell phones or texting.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's what you want.
Yeah. And like one of the things we talked about was like eye contact, how it's like a very important thing and how it kind of builds a relationship. Like, do you think that's changed a lot? Like, do you notice that a lot in life? Like, people don't make eye contact, even like walking down the street, people.
No, people don't make contact with their eyes anymore. When I was growing up, you go down the street, you always said hi to people whether you knew them or not, and you spoke to them and you smiled. Now people just don't do that. If you said hi to somebody, they stare at you to say, "What are you talking to me for?" But they're not as friendly as they were when I was growing up. A big difference. People are more friendly.
Now, what was it like walking around your town when you were little? I always wanted to know that. Like, what was it like a normal day if you just went outside or went downtown? What was that like?
Oh, it was nice. I used to. I walked to school. We didn't have school buses. um, we my friends, we would get together on weekends and we would go uptown, and we felt safe walking the streets, and we would go ice skating, and then when that was done, then we'd go to the theater, and then after that we'd stop at the Diana Suites, and then we would walk home, and it was fun, and it didn't cost us more than $1 to do all of that.
I wish it was like that still.
No, it was really more fun.
And like, do you talk to like with your family, like even like with your parents or just like your relatives, like cousins, uncles, and aunts? Like, do you see that changing, like the family dynamic, how people talk? Do you think families are closer still, or do you think they're like growing apart?
I think they're growing apart. I don't think they're as close as they were when I was growing up. I mean, you had dinner together, and you talked together. Nowadays, they don't have dinner together because the parents are all working, and they spent Sunday together, and nothing was allowed to be open when I was growing up. So families were families. Now they're not anymore, and I still think they should go back to just a 5-day week and Saturday and Sundays being off.
When you moved to Florida, how old were you when you moved to Florida?
I was 16.
Okay. Now, did you keep were you able to keep contact with your family that was still in Canada?
Yes.
Okay.
We keep contact with them. We still do, because most of my family was there. And I still keep in touch with some of my friends I grew up with there, too.
That's cool. Like, do you see them a lot, like, in Facebook, or do you, like, call them, or how do you...
I would call them on phone, and I keep track on Facebook with some of them.
Yeah. Because, like, that's the one thing, like... We've talked about, like, the drawbacks and the pros about having phones is that you can still keep in contact with people so far away, but it kind of distances you from the people that are closer to you. Do you see that as a trend?
In a way, I do, yes.
Yeah. What about, like, dating? Like, the dating life? Like, when you met Grandpa, what was that? Like, how did you guys talk? Could you imagine ever just having, like, texting him, being able to talk to him every moment of the day? Do you
I
see that
wouldn't.
as weird?
I wouldn't. That's weird. I wouldn't want to text him. I want to talk to him in person.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do that. That's no fun.
Mm-hmm. And also just like in a way, like how is, I don't know if you know much, but like how, if you've seen how it's changed, but just how like couples communicate now, do you see that different? Even with like my mom and dad or Uncle Dan and Aunt Tanya, do you see a difference in the way they talk to each other and the way you and Grandpa did?
Well, I think it's the way they were brought up. Yes, I think they do talk
Mm-hmm.
the same way you do because that's the way I brought my kids up, so they do communicate
Well, that's good.
that way, and
Mhm.
it makes a difference.
Mm-hmm. Do you see it different though in like other families and like how it could be?
Yeah, I do. In other families, some of them don't communicate at all.
Mm-hmm. I wish it was like that, you know. And so, what was it like when you met Grandpa? Like, what was the story behind that? Because I don't think I ever got the full story.
Well, I actually had some friends, and they wanted to stop and go bowling because there were these guys there they wanted to meet. So what's funny, we went in there, and that's where I met my husband in a bowling alley, and I get up to bowl. When I threw the ball, it went backwards.
Oh no.
So it was very interesting, and they weren't paying any attention to the girls that wanted to see them. They're paying more attention to me and my friend. And then my friend the next day got a phone call from one of the boys wanting to go out to the beach and to call up and ask me. So Carol and I and Bob Landis, we went down to Fort Lauderdale Beach, and that's how we got together.
Oh, cool. That is awesome.
So it was nice.
Mm-hmm.
So that was fun, and that's how I learned to bowl.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I never really knew that story, so that was always
Yeah,
interesting.
it was embarrassing when I threw the ball backwards.
Yeah, they have that, like, do you know, like, the Wii that we have? It's, like, one of those consoles with, like, the remote that you can
yeah.
move back and forth. You can do that in the game. You can throw the ball backwards and everyone
See,
jumps.
in Canada, it was a little bit different. It's a smaller ball.
Oh, it is?
It's not a big ball. No, and you have I think you have more pins, but it's completely different than the one that you have here with the big 3 holes
Yeah.
in it. Throw, no, in Canada,
Oh.
bowling was real small ball.
Oh, wow. That's cool. Yeah. Like, and then do you know how Aunt Doreen and Uncle Norman met?
Yes, I do. Norman was an organist in Fort Lauderdale at Melody Lane.
Mhm.
And her girlfriend wanted to go in there because there was this cute guy who played the organ. And he didn't pay any attention to her. He paid attention to my sister and he asked her out. So that's where she met him.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And then, was it the Mills that made everyone move up here? Is that why?
I moved up here because work wasn't that good in Fort Lauderdale,
Mhm.
and after he got out of the service, he worked at Muffler, and he just decided to come up here, see if we couldn't make better money than we did down there. So we ended up coming up to Michigan City because Doreen lived here.
Oh, okay. That's
So,
cool.
But that's the only reason why we moved up here.
That's
If I'd
interesting.
stayed down there, then I wouldn't have the grandkids I have now.
Yeah. And look at
You
us.
wouldn't have existed.
We're the best.
Yes,
Aren't we?
you are the best.
But yeah, I don't know. It's always interesting hearing how, like, just like the most random things can happen and just create families like this. I don't know. I like it.
It is.
Mhm. Oh, and I did have another question because I noticed it a lot. Like, I don't know if it's changed, but like nowadays, like a lot of little kids like are swearing a lot when they talk. Was that common when you were younger, or?
You wouldn't dare swear you'd get your mouth washed out with soap.
Mhm.
No, you didn't swear.
Okay.
That kids swear and talk the way they do because they're not brought up in church with God in their heart,
Mhm.
and that's where their problem is. But yes, they swear terrible. You wouldn't dare swear. We'd be in trouble.
Yeah, I know.
Might get a spanking.
Yeah. I don't know. Is there any like stories you want to talk about, like that you, or even like anything that you think of as a kid, like when you were a kid, if it were to happen now, could you think of anything that would be drastically different, like maybe something that happened like, or like when Queen Elizabeth visited your town? Do you think if she were to do that in your town today, do you think it would be different?
Can you stop
Yeah.
that for a second?
Yeah.
Well, anyhow, on August the 4th, in 1951, they would never do this now, because they wouldn't allow it. But we had Red Junior Hill was his name. And I got to see the man. There was over 1,000 to 3,000 people down there at Niagara Falls, and I got to see him. They put him in a barrel down by Chippewa, a mile from the falls, and they think maybe he was dead anyhow before he went over the falls. But he went over the falls in the barrel, and I got to see him go along. But nobody's allowed to do that anymore. But there was an old saying. They think they got him drunk.
Oh no.
And put him in the barrel, but they think maybe afterwards what he did is he was scared of the barrel coming apart. He might have just had a stroke or a heart attack, but he was dead when they got him out of the barrel.
Oh man.
But he and his family, they used to rescue people down there, and his dad went over the barrel, and then he went out and he more or less got him out of the whirlpool that they have right in the middle there. But it was fun. I got to watch him go over the barrel.
Oh man.
But nobody's allowed to do that anymore.
Do you think like did it become a big story like right away or?
Oh yes, it's always been a big story. In fact, you go down by Niagara on the lake and you'll see the barrel out front of this one home. They have the barrel.
Oh wow. Now because I know like today like you can do like a Facebook Live video where people probably could have been recording it and watching it. Do you think that kind of changes the importance of it? How everyone has access to stuff? Because if that were to happen now, people everywhere
would be video. Yes, they'd do a video of it.
Do you think it's kind of more special in the old way it happened, where it would happen and the people got to experience it live?
No, live is much better than watching that video.
Yeah, yeah. So do you think like in a way that it's kind of ruined the sense of like cool things happening or just the amazing things or like God's works in the world? Do you think those are kind of ruined by how much they can be exploded onto the internet?
Yes, I do. I like it. It's better if you see something yourself than what you see on the internet. Sometimes you don't even know whether half that's true anyhow.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool though that they got to see that. Well, I mean, I think we have enough